Alright guys, welcome back. In this video we're going to be talking about how does it affect the labor market if the good that's being sold is being sold in an imperfectly competitive market. So that could be oligopoly, monopolistic competition, or monopoly. Alright, before, everything we've done at this point really has been focusing on perfectly competitive markets, both the labor market and the product market. Keep that in mind that there are two distinct types of markets going on here. Where the good is being sold, that's the product market, and there's also where the labor is being bought, that's the factor market. So what we're talking about is, this is imperfectly competitive as far as the product goes. What we're going to notice here now, this though is still a labor market model. So we're looking at a wage, quantity of labor. So we're looking at the labor market for imperfectly competitive product firms. All right, ones that are making, so we're looking at monopolists, competitive industries, and oligopolists. We're looking at how they buy labor. So far we're going to just look at the demand curve because there is a significant difference here with the demand curve for the imperfectly competitive firms compared to the perfectly competitive. Now when you look at this, there doesn't seem to be a difference if you just look at the downward sloping nature of the demand curve. But what you might notice is different are the four letters after the word demand. So they also face a downward sloping demand curve. That's the good news, so it's going to look the same so far. However, when we were talking about previously, we were looking at demand and we said that it equaled VMPL, the value of the marginal product of labor. And we defined that as the price times the marginal product of labor. So again, think back to what we're talking about here. We're looking at if you hire one additional unit of labor, one more worker, how much does that worker increase output by? So how much they increase output by, that's their marginal product of labor. So one additional worker increases output by 5 units. The value part is now we need to put a price to that. So if the price was $5, they increase it by 5 units, $5 times 5 equals $25. That would be the value, sorry, let me not point over there, let me point here. That would be the value of the marginal product of labor. That's for perfect competition though. And the reason, some of you might already kind of be figuring it out, is because for the perfectly competitive firm, when they increase output, the price doesn't change. So what that means is that when that last worker adds 5 units, the price, you get to multiply the whole thing, the price times their marginal product of labor, and it's going to give us the amount that they have increased, the value of that, which is that $25. However, for the other 3 types of markets, monopolists, monopolistic competition, oligopolists, they face a downward sloping demand curve. So if they increase output, what happens? Well, if we picture it, we know that their price has to fall. I'm just going to draw this real quick for your reference. So this is going to be price and quantity. This is a goods market now. They face a downward sloping demand curve. So if they want to increase the output that they sell, there's going to be this downward movement along their demand curve. So every unit that they sell is going to sell now for the lower price. So that's why they have this marginal revenue curve that is below their demand curve. This is stuff that you guys are professionals at already, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but the idea here is that the marginal revenue, what they actually gain from that worker, does not equal the price. There is a gap there between the price and the marginal revenue. So what that means for our measurement here with the demand curve, it's still downward sloping, they still face diminishing marginal returns. Everything is pretty much the same, but we're going to call it something else. This is going to be MRPL, marginal revenue product of labor. All right? Because when they increase that output, they have to lower the price. So yes, they gain the units that were sold at that price, but you also have to subtract for the price effect because with that new lower price, they lost some revenue from all of the other units that are being sold. So what they go by is not the market price, but it's going to be the marginal revenue that they gain. So the MRPL, marginal revenue product of labor, it's the same exact concept. But this time, instead of us multiplying the price, we're going to multiply the marginal revenue because that's actually what they're gaining by this worker, and that's what they care about. So they're going to do the marginal revenue times the marginal product of labor, and we're going to call that MRPL, marginal revenue product of labor. That's telling us how much value an additional worker, an additional unit of labor is adding for the firm here that is in an imperfectly competitive product market. Well, it's a mouthful. All right, the vocab, I know there's all these specialized words, but these concepts aren't new, so please don't panic if you need to rewatch, you need to read in the textbook, please by all means do. Again, two terms, they're describing the same thing really. The difference here, perfect competitive, they take the price is equal to their marginal revenue. So by the way, it would be correct to say for the perfect competitive firm, you can use this term also, marginal product of labor, because for the PC firm, VMPL equals MRPL. These are the same because the price equals their marginal revenue. Because for this one, price does not equal marginal revenue, you cannot use these terms interchangeably for the imperfectly competitive firm. Okay? Till next time, this has been a La Money production.